Skul the Hero Slayer is a 2D roguelike game. In Skul the Hero Slayer, the roles of monsters and humans are reversed. It has a pixelated art style and very challenging gameplay. The best way to show both the gameplay design and character design is to look at the bosses. The first boss in the game, Yggdrasil, is called an Elder Ent, but he was corrupted by the humans. He shares the same name with the World Tree in Norse mythology. This boss's moveset is pretty simple, but it can still catch you off guard with some small projectiles that come off some attacks. The second boss in the game is pretty unique compared to the other bosses because you fight two enemies at once in the first phase, but in the second phase you only fight one of them. The boss's design is twin swordswomen who attack a lot faster than the previous boss. Even though their sprites are a lot smaller than Yggdrasil's, you can still see a lot of detail that was put into them. Both the swordswomen have golden armor with brown highlights on their legs, hands, and in between their joints, making it look more realistic of the armor, even though the armor is very much just fantasy armor. The only difference between phases in terms of character design is the color palette changes from gold and brown to black and dark purple. In the first phase, most of the attacks that they have are melee, but there are still some projectile attacks. But in the second phase, almost all of their attacks have some sort of projectile or an AoE attack. The final boss in Skul the Hero Slayer is the first hero in the game's world. He has a color palette of mostly brown armor with a red cape and a big sword he rests on his shoulder, which helps him definitely look like the typical hero in a fantasy world. The second phase is like the complete opposite. His armor becomes all black and purple with one small red highlight on his shoulder, showing that he's still the first hero. And instead of his massive sword, he has a black twin blade now, making him look more like a demon king instead of a hero. This boss is easily one of the hardest bosses in this game, since all of his attacks are extremely fast and extremely powerful. But even though he's really hard, I still feel like he's extremely fair, because a lot of his attacks are extremely televised and there are big windows for you to attack back. He is easily one of the hardest bosses in the game since all of his attacks are extremely fast and extremely powerful as well. But even though he's so hard, he still feels extremely fair. He combines some attacks that are similar to attacks from previous bosses, like some attacks from the twin swordswomen second phase is similar to attacks that he has in his second phase, but most of his attacks are unique to him. Since he's one of the hardest bosses in the game to fight, he's also one of the most fun bosses, and after you beat him the first time, you feel extremely satisfied.
I'm feeling the ocean, oh, just a memory, lost in ecstasy. Sights and sounds are forgotten and clear. Ships boast golden rings, fantasy breaking me. From the open shore I will learn to fly, soaring past the great divide. Voices at surface seem to call out all the lies. Is it still a sin if I tell them then as they sail to conquer tide? I'll awaken what's asleep inside. There's a hidden door on the ocean floor. Do these dreams belong to me? If it calls my name, am I awakened?